Our question that we ask people is, what does the United States government get out of their relationship with Israel?
So it's a great question, and I want to make sure that we understand something. So I am pragmatically pro-Israel. Having Israel as an American ally is a very pragmatic, practical decision.
Okay.
Right? It's kind of like a 401k. It's a good idea.
Okay.
But you can still hate your 401k.
Okay.
You can still have it mismanaged. It can still be something where you're like, I wish there was a better alternative, but I have no other option because my company chose this 401k.
Okay.
That's kind of the relationship that I think the United States has with Israel right now.
Okay.
Israel is, if you think of when you were a kid and you like made the whole egg drop experiment in elementary school, you put an egg inside of something so that you can drop it from the roof. Or you drop it from the ceiling, or you drop it from the third floor. Some people put it inside of a box, some people attach it to a parachute, but everybody puts the egg into something because the egg is what they care about. The thing on the outside is the thing they don't really care about, but the thing that's supposed to absorb the impact of the ground. That's what Israel is for the United States.
Okay.
Israel is supposed to absorb the impact.
He might be Mossad. I heard you say on another pod that all Mossad agents are hot.
What, I'm getting more compliments on this couch.
Oh, we don't want to fuck you. I'm just want to let you know.
No, absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I hope my wife is watching right now.
Yeah, see, I gay, dude. You know what time it is.
Okay, but so they absorb the impact of potential adversaries in the Middle East.
Correct. They also give us a foothold on another side of the world that if we ever need to rapidly deploy, we just have to move people from here to there because all the weapons they have are already our weapons. They're flying our jets. They're using our tanks. They're using our artillery.
We still own them, or we sold them?
We sold them, but they're buying American brand. So now all of a sudden, if we needed to launch an American front, and even if Israel didn't want to be actively involved in that front, we have a whole we have a cachet sitting there waiting for us.
Now, is this not the case with Saudi?
Not the case with Saudi. It is the case with Jordan, right? Saudi Arabia is a very different beast than Israel because Saudi Arabia is independently wealthy, right? They have oil wealth, they have royalty, they don't need our money. Israel, their economy is heavily tied to our economy. So they do need us to sell. They do need us to buy from them. Saudi Arabia's and the United Arab Emirates.
He's calling Jews broke. That's crazy.
That's great.
Okay, but then here's my question, just from, I guess, a PR standpoint. There is, I think most of us would agree, there's a genocide happening, and the United States seemingly just kind of supports Israel in this thing, and that is a very bad look for us globally. So is that allyship worth it? And if that protection is enough, well, I guess you can answer that, and then I have a follow-up.
Yeah. So, yes, it's worth it because whether you want to admit it or not, we're going to forget about this genocide in the next 15 to 20 years because we've already forgot about the genocide that happened on Clinton's watch when the Hutus killed the Tutsis.
Now, this is what I had this exact thought. There have been many times, it's sadly in Africa, where the United States just kind of didn't acknowledge a genocide, and the media landscape went with that and never talked about it, and we didn't support it, but we just kind of didn't do anything. What it seems to many of us, I'm no geopolitical expert at all. I'm dumb with most of this stuff, but it seems like not only are we turning a blind eye, we are looking at it and being like, no, that's okay. And that is a very different thing.
That's true.
Hey, we support those guys. Nobody was saying we support the Tutsis killing? Yeah, we support the Tutsis. Yeah. They're defending themselves. They have the right to defend. Nobody was saying that. We just kind of ignored it. It seems like, and I hate that I hope it doesn't get clipped up for some anti-Semitism shit, because this has nothing to do with Jewish people as a race or culture or whatever. This is about a government.
Yeah.
What they seem to be doing is a genocide, and we're like, hey, they are allowed to do that.
I agree with you. The international outcry was so much more significant in the 90s, whereas right now the international outcry is there, but that's not really what we're seeing or hearing here. Instead, what we're seeing here is, well, they have a right to defend themselves. And there's all the comparisons to 9/11. There's actually not a lot of objective comparison between 9/11 and what happened on October 7th. They're very, very different settings, right? But we're still drawing all these comparisons as if we are making the argument that the mass killing of non-participant, aggressors in Gaza, Palestinian women, children, and civilians, non-extremists, as if that's okay.
Yeah, and I think to that end, I don't know that we're going to forget about this in 15, 20 years. I think there will be a stain that didn't necessarily exist with Hutus and Tutsis, and I think it happened in Sudan as well. I read a book that I already forgot what it was called. The book, but it's about a genocide. So that's happened. But this, I think, will leave a longer stain. Do you not feel that way?
The reason I don't feel that way is because, first of all, most Americans don't understand what a Palestinian is. And
Is someone getting killed in Palestine?
I
I mean, it's probably a woman or child getting murdered in Palestine.
And here's what's fucked up. What's Palestine?
Well, it is the nation that will soon to be known as Israel.
But
It's like Prince, but
it doesn't
the other way.
exist, right? And that's one of the things that makes it so hard for people to conceptualize. There is no technical Palestine.
Okay.
There's Israel, and then there's other areas of Israel that are called other things, Gaza, West Bank. There's no Palestine, right? Even the United States, who has kind of quietly advocated for a two-state solution, there is an Israel. And there for sure is terrorism. We all know terrorism very well. Every American knows terrorism very well. So we understand terrorism, but we don't understand the difference between Hezbollah, Hamas. We don't understand.
I don't.
Yeah, we don't understand what the IRGC is in Iran, and what's the relationship between Iran? Like, what's a proxy?
Yeah.
And then why are there even missiles coming from Yemen? People don't understand it.
Yeah.
And when people don't understand it, it makes it really easy to forget and favor something else that you do understand.
So the United States is kind of making a calculated decision, and I'm not even necessarily judging this. This is kind of like a decision I have the luxury of not making. I got to look out for my 330 or whatever million constituents, and if it is, tens, 20s, hundreds of thousands of people over there dying, those aren't my constituents. I don't have to worry about that if it benefits my... Is that kind of the ugly truth of what you're saying?
Yeah, there's two ugly truths. One is I have to feed my constituency, and my constituency doesn't care to a point where it's affecting the economy or my re-election campaign, right? That's part of it. But then the other part of it is, objectively speaking, if you measure what Israel's actions have been, it's all good for us. They have crippled Hezbollah, crippled Hamas. The Houthis are weak. Iran has been, like, their enrichment program has been damaged significantly. Their ability to leverage proxy conflict, not just against Israel, but anywhere else in the world, has been significantly reduced. I mean, Netanyahu's decisions, his actions, as sad as they are, and as many tens of thousands of innocent Palestinians that you can count, he's essentially taken three major adversaries to the United States and he's knocked them all back 10 to 15 years. So 10 to 15 years of increased security for 330 million cost the price of 50,000 Palestinians, and how many Americans are going to take action on that? That's the ugly truth.
Could you also say that the conflict has exacerbated a potential hot war between the United States directly and Iran?
Thank God you had a good point, because he fucking checked me hard with that. Jesus Christ. I'm one move away from checkmate. It's unbelievable what corner I'm in. Okay, go ahead.
So I think what yes and no. We were never that close to a hot war with Iran. Iran doesn't really care that much about us. They care much more about what's happening in the Middle East.
CIA believes that all people are born with a spy secret superpower. For some people, that means they can win deals. For others, they can spot liars. Some can even seduce lovers. I built a free 3-minute test to help reveal to you exactly what your secret hidden superpower is. All you have to do is click on the link in the description below, take the test, and start using your spy superpower to stay ahead of 99% of people.
And we don't really care that much about Iran because Iran doesn't have much sphere of influence that impacts us. When Donald Trump flew stealth bombers into Iran to bomb their nuclear enrichment facility, I think he knew very well there was not going to be significant retribution coming back from Iran. If anything, there would be what happened, some sort of response that allows us to test our weapon systems in full view of everybody and look really strong again, right?
Did he do real damage with that attack? Because we've heard mixed things.
It's mixed things, and this is part of what's the biggest challenge in the Trump administration, is that even the intelligence, like the DNI, the Director of National Intelligence, and all the agencies that feed up to the DNI, we don't know if they're independent or if they're being directed as to what they can or can't report to the president, right? Because DIA came back and said, hey, our damage analysis is insignificant. And the DNI came out and said, we knocked them back to the Stone Age. And so it's inconsistent. Are the facts coming up so we can find them, or are the facts being dictated? Is the truth being dictated down?
Which of those entities has the greater chance of being propagandized by a president that wants to get a third term?
So the DNI, because the DNI is the newest of all positions. Didn't exist before 2003.
Oh, okay. And the DNI said that we didn't do much damage, correct?
Correct. And then the DNI came back later on. I was like, no.
Oh, okay.
We really did. That's Tulsi Gabbard.
Okay. Got it. Okay, here's actually one question I did want to ask you about Israel and in the allyship and all the good that it does. If that is true, why do we still hear so much about an AIPAC presence as a lobby? Why does AIPAC still exist? Why does Israel need AIPAC to do all of these things? From what I understand as a guy who's not super political, they have a large influence on the government. But if we're already getting so much out of Israel, why do we need that lobbyist?
So I mean,
why do they need
you're definitely out of my depth on this one.
Fuck yeah!
Because when it comes to a lot of the political lobbies and what's involved in them and how they work, that's not foreign intelligence.
Yeah, I can understand that.
That's
but
like domestic.
I guess my question,
gerrymandering.
as you're talking it all out, I'm thinking it in my mind. I'm like, okay, that all makes sense. But then why would we need an AIPAC? Or why would Israel need an AIPAC to have such influence here? And, Bernie Sanders has said, like, you go against them, they'll get you out of office.
Yeah.
Why do they need that if they offer so much value?
Yeah, our elected politicians, they need a vacation to, Israel.
I mean, you know what? I guess I can understand that to a degree, but if they offer so much good, it feels like they wouldn't need such a strong... Like, I'm trying to think, England is an ally of ours, as far as I know, that we have a great relationship with. There's no English lobby.
So this is a great point. So you're actually raising something that is really relevant here it's both relevant and I know something about it. Israel doesn't trust the United States. Israel actively tries to send Mossad agents to penetrate the United States. They're actively recruiting spies inside the United States in our nuclear programs, in our weapons and military programs, in our intelligence programs. Like, Israel is actively trying to spy on the United States.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So they don't trust us. They don't trust us to do what we say we're going to do.
Why
and
is
they
that?
don't trust us not to spy on them. Because I think they understand American pragmatism better than most Americans understand American pragmatism, right? Israel is one of the few countries in the world that's surrounded on almost all sides by enemies.
Mm-hmm.
Not just like, I don't like you enemies, but existential threat enemies. People who want to wipe the Jewish state off the map.
And to give Israel credit, to act like there haven't been terrorist attacks / attempted terrorist attacks constantly is a ridiculous thing to say.
Is it fair to say they have a militaristic paranoia?
I would venture away from paranoia because it's demonstrable.
But when it comes to dealing with the United States as far as intelligence,
Yeah, that would seem like paranoia.
like is there demonstrable evidence the United States is withholding information from the Israeli government or Mossad?
So the United States has a full transparency agreement with 4 other countries. That's what makes what's known as the Five Eyes. So Canada, the United Kingdom, New Zealand, Australia, and the United States.
Are they called the Five Eyes because CIA, MI6, the I in the intelligence
I
agency?
actually don't know. And it's funny when you look at it written out, it's the word I, E-Y-E.
Oh,
So
okay.
I don't really know where it came from. But those are the only 5 countries that really agree to full transparency. And even then, that full transparency has policy rigor around it.
Mm-hmm.
Israel's not part of that. So they already know that they're not part of an agreement that says we're going to share everything. So then they have to wonder, like, what are you going to share? What aren't you going to share? And when it comes to Israel, the thing they're the most interested about is not what is the United States collecting about Israel. It's what is the United States collecting about a threat to Israel that they're not telling Israel. So what did the United States collect about Hezbollah that they're not telling Israel? What did the United States collect about Iran that they're not telling Israel? And they want to shore up that gap.
And that's why they're so paranoid and they'll still have a lack of trust for us.
I mean, they have a lack of trust for Israel, again, and I want to differentiate between Israel and Jews. Not the same
Yes,
thing.
that is a super important thing to do.
Right? But Israel's it doesn't know who to trust, and it arguably doesn't trust anyone. It's a young country. It's almost like the relationships that it does have are all pragmatic, based on economy and military trading and shared borders or whatever else. It doesn't really have anyone who's ideologically aligned with the Jewish state, because Israel does not have a differentiation of church and state. They are the Jewish state. The government is the religion is the government.
Okay.
So that's fundamentally different than here in the United States.
And so does America trust Israel?
No. At the government level, the United States does not trust Israel.
Why?
Because of all the same reasons. We know they're trying to penetrate us. We know that they manipulate us. We know that they manipulate trade. We know that they have agreements and partnerships, and they do all sorts of things with other countries that are beneficial to Israel but not beneficial to the United States. So there's this inherent distrust of these two allies that inherently need each other on opposite sides of the world.
Is that a new phenomenon, or do you feel like this has precedent in history?
It has precedent for sure, and it's the way that most relationships around the world actually do work. There's a famous quote that you learn at the agency that actually comes from statesmanship and diplomacy that says there are no permanent friends or enemies, only permanent interests.
That's good.
So you have permanent interests.
I think that's a life lesson.
But people come and go based on whether or not they agree with your interests or not.
Is there any evidence of different governments, globally speaking, that withhold intelligence information of a potential attack for some other interest?
So it's a yes and no answer, right? Generally speaking, imminent threat to life means very pressing in terms of a timeline. 48 hours, 72 hours, that type of thing. Imminent threat to life, arguably, even complete enemies should advise each other, right? So if we in the United States find out that some extremist group in China is going to bomb a public event in Beijing, we'll tell China, right? It's kind of a duty to warn is what we call it. And other countries agree the same thing for us. So there should be that for imminent threats. But for strategic threats, which are long-term threats, or tactical threats, it becomes more dicey. And now it becomes, well, if we tell them about this attack that could happen in 3 months, are we exposing our source? And if we're exposing our source, is it worth possibly losing the source to prevent that attack? Or is it better to wait until the attack is imminent and then warn them 2 days or 3 days in advance?
I noticed you said the word should. Have you ever seen it not happen?
Oh, I've seen it happen a number of times, especially in even the takedown of Osama bin Laden, right? Pakistan was an ally. We crossed Pakistani borders illegally to take out Osama bin Laden. We didn't warn the Pakistanis that there was going to be a violent attack on their country until right before we crossed the border, right?
Now, we're getting into conspiracy territory, okay? You can punt on this if you want. But there is a theory that Mossad had some forewarning of the September 11th attacks, and that they were in some way maybe knew about it and then didn't inform the United States. And I've seen it like pop up on Twitter a lot.
That is the kindest conspiracy theory I've heard
For real.
about anything Israeli adjacent.
It's like a Mormon conspiracy theory.
We heard about dancing Israelis over in Jersey, so celebrating out there. So.
People call it different things. But I'm curious, have you heard of this theory, and do you think there's any validity to it?
I think there's actually probability to it. And I say that because even in the United States, CIA and FBI both had information about the September 11th attacks before they happened. Now, whether or not Israel nefariously held that information back is a different story. Was it there and they just didn't see it? Was it there and they didn't validate it? Was it there and they communicated to the United States and said, hey, we're getting some strange warnings. Do you have anything about a pending attack in your country? Right? And the United States, they did, but it was on the cutting room floor and nobody was talking about it. So they may have very well come back and been like, nope, you know what you're talking about.
Wasn't there a huge lack of communication pre 9/11 between CIA and FBI and other information agencies, and then post, they've sort of opened that up better?
Yeah, so that's exactly getting back to what the DNI is and why the DNI exists. Prior to 9/11, the United States was basically a bunch of intelligence community members who coordinated when they wanted to. And they all spoke different languages, right? You speak military, you speak intel, you speak signals intelligence, or the people who listen in on phone calls, right? Well, when you write a report, you use different terminology when you write a report. And when you have an asset, you didn't coordinate your asset with him. So it might be the same asset for all we know, only yours is 24612 and yours is codenamed, hard nipples, whatever.
Falcon.
Yeah. But nobody was talking to each other in the same language. So when the 9/11 commission happened, and in 2003, when Senate came in and said, we're changing, when really all of Congress came in and said, we're changing how we do intelligence business, we are appointing a DNI, a director of national intelligence, who's going to standardize and uniform and make everything more uniform.
Are we less effective in a sense because of this?
I would say we're more effective.
Okay.
We're more effective, but we're also fatter.
Yeah. I get it. I get it.
But we're fatter and we're more expensive.
Okay.
Right? It used to be that people could run kind of lean, be experimental.
Wouldn't know
You always had plausible deniability. Now, like how does the DNI have plausible deniability?
Yeah.
You made a comment in a different podcast where you said that Mossad operates today like the CIA operated in the late 50s, 60s.
Yeah, so the reference there is that CIA prior to 9/11, CIA in the 60s and 70s, was did not suffer significant oversight.
Okay.
They had a small group of people that could take very high risk operations in order to accomplish whatever priorities the president set in place. That's essentially what the Mossad is now. Argo. Yeah. That's what Mossad is now. Mossad is a small group with almost no oversight that executes in any way that they need to the direction of their
We
prime
keep
minister.
hearing they're like the most effective, I mean, we meaning idiots like me, the most effective intelligence agency. Is that true? And is that why?
Yeah, so
Tell us about your colleagues.
So I'm going to be particular about language, right? Because effective has different meanings.
They
Effective,
know the most, it seems.
so I would argue that they don't.
Oh, okay.
So first of all, Israel and Mossad is very, very focused on just a handful of priorities, basically threats to the homeland.
Okay.
Everything outside of that handful of priorities, they don't care about. They're not a global superpower. The United States is a global superpower. We don't have a handful of priorities. We have dozens upon dozens of priorities. We have to know what's happening between two allies in Europe. We have to know what's happening about, rice trade in Southeast Asia. We have to know whether or not there's going to be another coup in Africa. We care about all that shit. So we have to take our budget and our officers and know everything that's happening in the world.
And Mossad just has to focus on threats to the homeland.
Right.
Here's a question.
How did they miss October 7th?
Bang.
So
Did they miss October 7th?
one of the ways where October 7th is parallel to 9/11 is that in hindsight, what people have collected is that there was information that was communicated up the chain of command that was never acted upon to prevent the attack.
But if it's a small group of people, it makes sense in CIA. You have a real thing against the word "the," so I just keep saying CIA.
I appreciate it.
In CIA, it was a scattered budget, like you said. There's no real oversight. Mossad is a small group. So, to address some conspiracy theories out there, how do they not communicate with each other within a small group that there's an imminent threat potentially to the homeland?
So there were three groups that were involved. Three Israeli organizations that were involved in the October 7th incident. Mossad, because Mossad's charged with collecting foreign intelligence that addresses threats against the homeland. So their job is they were the ones that should have known what Hamas was doing, who the Hamas leaders were, what the supplies were, timing, etc. Right? So that would have been Mossad. But the actual border itself was protected by the Israeli military, not by Mossad. So anything about imminent attack, anything about locations, anything about security and defense, the IDF would have had to handle that. So Mossad would have had to communicate with the IDF, and the IDF would have had to communicate with Mossad.
Okay.
And then you have internal security, which is handled by a group called Shin Bet. Shin Bet is basically like the FBI for Israel. Anything that happens inside the country, not on the border, not outside of the border, anything that happens inside the country should be Shin Bet's purview.
Okay.
So you've got three organizations that would have had to all communicate almost seamlessly in a short period of time to prevent October.
So you don't think there's any real validity to the idea that Netanyahu maybe allowed this to happen so he could stay in power?
I think there's always a possibility, but the probability speaks to miscommunication, mishandling, and a poor series of
Which
events.
is, I understand that, is the most logical and probable of all solutions. Okay.
Wait, one thing. But things going on in Gaza, since that's technically part of Israel, wouldn't that be Shin Bet's responsibility?
And this is why, it's a great question, and this is why things get really mixed up in Israel, because you have all these international players, some of which are trying to protect Palestinians, some of which are trying to protect Israel, all of which are trying to find peace. And then you have these areas that are kind of carved out that are supposed to be like safe havens for the Palestinians, but they're not really safe havens because they're still managed by the Israelis. And then Israeli law shouldn't necessarily apply to Palestinians, but it does because they're on land that the world kind of views as Israel. So it gets really fucking complicated, right? Who does have jurisdiction? Is it the Palestinian Authority? Palestinian Authority is kind of the recognized authority for the Palestinian people. Or is it Hamas? Hamas is the group that was voted into power by the Palestinian people over the Palestinian Authority. Woo, fucking. And then the United States, the world sees Hamas as a terrorist organization. Sort of. 12 countries in the world see Hamas as a terrorist organization.
Really? I thought we all kind of saw Hamas as
No,
terrorists.
that's Western
Why do the
narrative.
others not see it as a terrorist
Even the
organization?
EU doesn't see them as a terrorist group.
Okay, is it just because they're liberal cucks, or like what is that? Like what is the? I'm serious. Why would they not?
Because the definition of terrorism is really loose. It's defined by each country, and some countries see Hamas's activities as terrorist activities. Some countries see Israel's activities as terrorist countries. In Iran,
Two things can be true.
the United States is a terrorist organization.
Is the Taliban recognized as or not recognized as a terrorist organization by many countries?
That's what's funny is the Taliban is seen as a terrorist organization almost universally.
Oh, really?
Which is why it was so significant when President Bush said, we will not negotiate with terrorists. And then there we were sitting at the table with the Taliban.
Right. Interesting.
Was Hamas a terrorist organization before October 7th?
It
By those
was
12?
Yeah, it was identified. It was identified as a terrorist organization in the United States for many, many years because it uses extremist activity to cause injury to civilians with the intent of changing policy. That's essentially the definition, the United States definition of terrorism. Even if you look up right now, is Hamas a terrorist organization or an insurgency? Because insurgency was another term that we invented in Afghanistan and Iraq. If you look up that term, even on Google, the Google machine, the Google AI will be like, this is a very complicated topic.
Oh, wow.
Because depending on your point of view, it is both an insurgency and a terrorist group.
One person's terrorist, another person's freedom fighter, basically.
Exactly.
Yeah.